tuned in to the Cold Hard Truth, Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Now, I don't know where my camera is. It's probably not on. Or it is. Let's see what's going on, beautiful folks. Welcome one and welcome all. There we go. Got my daughter's beautiful towel in the background. Someone gave this to her. Can I just show you the cutest little thing? I know you guys are not really used to me being in mommy mode on this show, but I am a mom. Look at this. This Princess Gianna. Somebody gave this to her. Isn't that the cutest little thing? With the little princess. Now, you know, she'll look at Barbie and all these princesses and she's like, I want my hair to be like that. And I'm like, honey, you are a beautiful young lady, toddler of mixed heritage. So you are not going to have blonde hair like Barbie, but you still have beautiful hair. And you've got to teach your kids, first and foremost, to love themselves before anybody else can love them. Well, you know, as a mother, who couldn't love such a beautiful daughter? From day one, we were, let's have this child because she's going to be awesome. He or she, didn't even matter. But yes, you've got to teach your kids to love themselves because they see all these messages, even at 4 years old. She's sitting down there watching a cartoon and thinking, I want to look like Barbie. And I'm like, no, you don't. You look like yourself and you're absolutely gorgeous. Good morning, folks. Let's get it. Oh boy. Marissa. No. All right. So let's jump in. Good morning to Evelyn. Marissa's talking about wearing masks. We are not going back there. Trust me, it just isn't going to happen. We are going to be talking about sleeping police officers this morning. And in fact, we're supposed to be having a young lady by the name of Cindy joining us. And Cindy has a point to make. Well, we're going to listen to Cindy, and we are going to talk about some of the other shenanigans that are happening around the Cayman Islands. So give me one quick second here. Here we go. Evelyn, Marissa, Lolita, good morning. Lizette, beautiful Lizette, beautiful Miss Janet. All of you, I can't really see you, but I say you look beautiful this morning because I know you do. Good morning to Morna. It is a beautiful day. We had a little bit of early morning showers. I don't know if that means that we're in for some more later on this afternoon, but we got a little bit yesterday. Wasn't anything too much crazy. Too much crazy. What the heck did I just say? It wasn't anything too crazy yesterday in terms of the showers. Elizabeth, buenos dias. Janelle is here for it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Yesterday, we almost broke the internet. Not really, but the Cayman internet, which is easy to break, with a photo of a sleeping police officer. And a lot of you felt very strongly about the situation, one way or the other. So we're going to be talking about that here in a minute. Were those of you who were excusing this bad behavior? Andine, I'm expecting you to be up and at it this morning. Where are you, my dear? We need to hear from Andine because she was defending him. And like I said, we're hoping that Cindy is going to be joining us because Cindy was defending him. Yes? Where is Miss Cindy? Get up, Cindy. Come on, girl. We need to hear from you. Who else is with us this morning? We have the beautiful and handsome Larry. We've got Barbara. She's ready for the tea. Leslita. Oh, I'm glad you like that towel. I think it's cute too. I need to order some more actually. I don't know where, it was a gift, so I don't even know where they got it from, but it is super cute. Good morning, Jake. Atlas. Hello, how are you? Christine. Good morning, beautiful Christine. Catherine. Evelyn. So she's all geared up with her mask. We take no chance. Well, after yesterday's announcement that one more person tested positive, we should definitely be taking absolutely no chances. Thankfully, that person was a traveler and in quarantine. And it really just goes to show the point right now that probably our biggest risk remains the people who are coming into the jurisdiction from somewhere else. But we're going to talk about that after we talk about sleeping police. Now, you know the term sleeping police. There is another acronym for that, or another meaning, I should say. Not really an acronym, but another meaning. And sleeping police are the police, like the speed bumps. They're also called sleeping police. Did you know that? I think that might be like an North American term. So maybe not everyone calls it that. But yes, that is another term for speed bumps, sleeping police. So a lot of people were very, very cheeky in terms of how they were referring to this literally sleeping police officer yesterday. And I had a chuckle when everybody was like, yes, a sleeping police officer. So he was definitely asleep on the job. And we're going to talk about all the details of that this morning because I was a bit surprised at the number of excuses that we received. And we definitely need to have the conversation. So just give me a minute here in case you missed it. I imagine some of you may have completely missed that story. So right after 2 o'clock yesterday, we got a photo of a police officer sleeping. And I thought, oh, Lord, here we go. And I mean, he isn't just kind of like taking a break. This dude is sleeping like he is dead to the world sleeping. It's amazing how deep in a sleep he was. I'm like, what the hell could he be doing to be so tired? Well, we're going to explore some of the possibilities this morning. Good morning, Mindy. Oh, I haven't seen you in a while, Mindy. I love your Cayman flag. Cayman strong hashtag. Yes, Cameron, we got some beautiful blessings. Joseph is already joining in on, he's giving his opinion. Unduly police should not be sleeping. Chance, beautiful Chance tuned in from Cayman Brack. I wonder how many Cayman Brackers we have this morning. Thank you guys so much. Where's Quincy? Where is, well, I just spoke to Elvis. Unfortunately, Elvis was going to visit the family of a friend of his that passed away. So we are extending our condolences to that family in Cayman Brack who have lost their loved one. And thank you so much, Elvis, for letting us know that. Diana, good morning to you. Cameron says, moral of the story, don't fall asleep on CMR. Well, don't fall asleep on the job. All right, so let's jump in. Louis, good morning. 46 degrees. You need some real tea to keep warm at 46 degrees. Karen, we're going to get there in a minute. All right, so listen. So we got a photo after 2 o'clock with a sleeping police officer, and I was like, Lord have mercy. Here we go. Why is this dude sleeping? And yes, Lizette, we've got eyes and ears everywhere. Cayman Brack, Jamaica, Honduras, Lower Valley, East End, Savannah, it don't matter. We know what's going on because you guys know what's going on, and you keep us in the loop. So, is it okay to be sleeping on the job? Well, some of you thought it was okay to be sleeping on the job. And ironically, some of you actually defended this man sleeping on the job. You had all sorts of excuses. Now, you know the first thing they always throw at you is, well, nobody's perfect. Well, nobody said we were perfect. I mean, this is not even close to perfection here, folks. This is something else. This is like next level ridiculous. So no, we're not perfect. We're not claiming to be perfect. We don't want to be perfect. None of that. And you know what? We all do things on occasion from time to time. I don't know if we've fallen asleep on the job. I've never fallen asleep on a job because I'm pretty sure I would have gotten fired, right? So let's consider what we have in front of us. He was sent to the dock to watch a boat of Cubans that it was a very small boat that were offshore and basically, I'm sure, told to keep an eye on the situation. At that time, it was the ambulance. So for those of you who were worried about his health, let me assure you, he was in no danger of being in a coma or being deceased. And the ambulance was literally parked right in front of him. Now, these are the details that sometimes you don't always know. But CMR digs into the details so that we can find out precisely what is this all about? So we ask the questions. The when, the where, the who, the what, the how, and the sus. So we know that before the customs officers, CBC, showed up to the scene, he was sent there. So here we are. This is the officers. He was sent on location to keep an eye on the officers. On the two Cuban migrants who were coming in before the Border Control Authority showed up. Now, they had been spotted offshore. So way before this was after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, folks. Way before that, yesterday morning, I received a message, and let me tell you the exact time of the message. At, let me see here, yesterday, I received a message right after the show finished at 9:44 a.m. I got a phone call from a contact here in Cayman to say there were some Cuban migrants who may have been coming into the BRAC. So I checked my sources, and then I find out that, Nathan, don't worry, we're going to address that here in a second. They hadn't landed yet. So you guys know our situation with Cubans, right? I think most people know that we are not really permitted to assist them. If they come in Cayman waters or they're in trouble and they want to come aboard, then we obviously will bring them aboard with the understanding that they're actually going to be repatriated in most cases, unless they can make an application and prove, I guess, political asylum. Most of them will be repatriated back to Cuba. So they know the rules just as well as we know the rules. So a lot of times they have no interest actually in stopping in Cayman because their ultimate destination is try to get into U.S. waters. So they have a dry foot, wet foot policy or whatever in the States, right? So once they can touch U.S. soil, I don't think Trump has changed this, although he has put in some new measures in place, some new restrictions in place for Cuba, which is a whole other discussion just last week. But yes, once someone touches American soil, they are good to go, and they are permitted to stay in the U.S. and they're given automatic status and I guess eventually citizenship and whatever, right? So very good. So his sole remit, and let's take a good look at the officer here. His sole remit was to sit back and watch the Cubans so that if they came aboard before CBC, I guess he was to do something. I mean, make sure they didn't come in and give us all COVID or whatever the situation. There's a real reason why a police presence would have been required for illegal migrants landed, all right? So a lot of you are concerned about illegals coming into the country and whether or not they have the potential to, spread COVID-19. And this is a real concern, folks, because guess what? Jamaica, overrun with over 6,000 cases that they know about. Do 6 times 10 and you'll get the real numbers. As we have said before, the real numbers are always more and greater than people recognize. Okay? So that was his job, and he was literally sleeping on the job. So the person who took the photo, and they tagged their name on here, we didn't do that, call the police station. So I want you guys to pay attention here. So for those of you who thought, oh, right, he's on a break, he's able to take a nap if he's on a break. That's not what this was. This wasn't him sitting in the bushes somewhere discreetly, having his lunch, his sandwich on his break, and then deciding, okay, I'm on a break. Let me just go ahead and take a little 15-minute nap. That's not what this was. He was on active patrol, active duty, sent to a specific location after 2 o'clock in the afternoon to sit down and watch potential illegal immigrants coming on board who we don't know what they have and what they don't have. And this is nothing against Cubans, Jamaicans, or anybody else. But right now, anyone coming ashore, we need to be concerned about. Persons can come ashore with weapons. They could come ashore with drugs. They could come ashore with COVID. We don't know. Or they could come ashore with nothing. But there are protocols in place that have to be followed. So when I'm sitting here reading all these excuses for this officer about, was he on his break? Maybe he was tired. Maybe he's working a double or triple shift. We're going to dispel every single one of those myths this morning. He was on active duty. The person called the police station and said, who is on duty today? Because they didn't even know who this officer was. And they were told, Inspector, hold on a second here now, let me get some names. They were actually told that Inspector, what's his name? Kevin Bogle was on duty, as well as this officer, and they gave his name and they also gave his location. He is, they said, at Scott's Dock, watching the Cubans in case they make land, entry and land in West End, Cayman Brac. That's what he was doing. He was not on a break. He was not having lunch. He was not supposed to be having a siesta. None of that was approved. All right. So that's the first myth. He wasn't on a break. So let's throw that out the window. Number two, no one is claiming to be perfect here, but I can assure you, if you ever fell asleep on your job, you would be fired. There are minimum expectations when you work. Yesterday, we went over to Inspire Cayman and we met some young men who are part of the apprenticeship program. Some of them have actually signed a contract. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on. One of the people that they signed a contract with is IWC. And Mr. Jason Brown, like all employers, was saying, listen, in the Cayman Islands, we have a real issue with people understand that, yes, it's important that you have the technical skills, okay? So it is important that you know how to, as a police officer, I guess you know the law, you know how to arrest someone, you know how to use your handcuffs. All of those things are important. You know how to interact as a community officer. However, most importantly, you should also show up to time and work. Make sure your uniforms are clean and presentable, right? Not fall asleep on the job. Be punctual. All of these things are important. And if you run afoul of any of those things, you can rest assured, folks, that you're going to get written up, and in some instances, you're going to get fired. Now, I like to think about the implications of this for a second. We have a sleeping police officer who is supposed to be watching some Cuban nationals come aboard, in case they come aboard, right? He is sleeping like nobody's business. This dude, listen, I want to show you this again. When they say you are in a deep sleep, this is no joke. He is sleeping hard. This isn't a sleep where somebody taps the window and he's going to wake up. And do you know how I know that? Because the young man who took the photo, after he made the phone call, went out of his way to make a lot of noise, thinking, let's wake this guy up. There were other people coming and moving around, at least 3 others, talking, talking loudly to try to wake this dude up. And he was gone 2 sheets to the wind. Now, there are those of you who then provide the excuse that, well, he's been working hard. Yes. Let us explore that possibility in terms of logic. Catherine says, so Nathan, you can sleep on your job if you're on your lunch break. Not in a police car. You cannot. That would be the equivalent of, let me think of how another job that we could think of. You're a backhoe driver and you can just sleep on the job in the backhoe with the backhoe running. Because for those of you who actually think that this man had no AC on, you are crazy. No police officer is going to be sitting in a vehicle with the windows rolled up, sleeping like this at 100+ degrees, feel like 120 degree heat. He had the vehicle running. Now, let me tell you another tidbit that you may not be aware of. The day that you sit in your car asleep with the vehicle running and a police officer walks up to you, you will be arrested. Yeah. You're not permitted to sleep in your car with the car running. That's an arrestable offense. So there's also that. Poor Catherine. She's like, I could fall asleep standing up. I get up so early. Now, I know everybody's looking for a little bit of sympathy. And we're thinking, give the guy a break. He must be working so hard. He's so tired. So Nicole, we're going to come to your comment just here in a second. It's really long, so we're going to come to it here in a second. So the next logical thing is this guy was so tired that he had to sleep. This is an interesting thought, because if you've ever been to Cayman Brac, or if you live on the Brac, you know that the Brac is the equivalent of Grand Cayman about 50 years ago in terms of what's happening. There's not a whole lot that is going on. Not only is there not a whole lot that is going on, but the truth of the matter is no one there is working a double shift. And the young man who called in can confirm that he was not working the night before. How does he know that? Because the young man actually said, I am on, electronic monitor. And so I know who's working and what shifts a lot of times, although he didn't know this particular officer. But he knows who was coming to check on him and who was on the previous shift. So let's be very, very clear about how the police operate. They do 12-hour shifts. And when you sign up to be a police officer, a prison officer, you know that you are in for a 12-hour shift. Now, not everybody is capable of working a 12-hour shift. I admit that. Some of you can't work past 5 hours. And if you are not, what I would say is there's certain jobs that you should never apply for. Nurses work shifts, right? So every nurse, they get used to working that graveyard shift, the day shift, and in between shifting them from night to day, normally they get a couple days off. So as I recall, for police, it's 4 days on, 4 days off. That's how it used to be. Now, I know about a year or so ago, there were talks about maybe changing up the roster where they were no longer going to do 12-hour shifts. I think they were going to make it less, but then they would be working more and getting less of a break in between. So I don't know if that has actually changed or not. Good morning, Melita. So it could be that there's still 4 days on and 4 days off. If you are a police officer, and you know you've got to go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning because they do 7 to 7. And you wake up that morning and you're like, oh my God, I cannot make it through the day today. Like, I don't know what happened the night before. Maybe he went out and had one too many. Maybe the wife kept him up. Maybe the girlfriend kept him up. We can speculate about all sorts of things that we do not know. What we do know is this man was tired. Now, if you are tired, and your supervisor calls you and says, I need you to go on location to stake out this location, to keep an eye on this situation in case this develops. We don't even know if the migrants who were coming on board, they could have been violent individuals. He could have actually had to do something in terms of policing work. Who knows? So there are lots of possibilities that we could consider, but we do not know. What we do know is that a sensible person, and especially a person in a position such as a police officer, would have said to his supervisor, Sarge or Inspector, I had a rough night. I wasn't working, so I don't know what would have made it such a rough night, but I had a rough night, and guess what? Can you have somebody else cover this shift for me? I need to go lie down, go to your yard, go to your house. There's nowhere on the BRAC that you cannot get there in 10 minutes, 15 minutes at the most. So I don't know where Officer 400 lives, but he could have gone. Heck, it would have been better for him to have gone to the police station on the BRAC, which, come to think of it, Scott's Dock is like a stone's throw away from the police station. Like literally a 2-minute drive. Because remember, the police station is right by the bakery, and Scott's Dock is like right there. So he could have gone back to the police station, called somebody else, or asked the sergeant to go and watch the Cuban since he was incapable of doing it, and lie down for half an hour and took a power nap if he was that tired. So I don't know what kind of excuses we are trying to make up for this man, but the excuses were amazing. So one person, and I'm glad she brought up this point, said, listen, she was recently at the Georgetown station and she saw an officer, what she thought was sleeping in his vehicle. And come to find out, the officer was actually about to slip into diabetic coma. And so she was contacting the police, the ambulance or whatever came for him and potentially saved his life. So I thought, you know what? That is a really good possibility. People don't slip into diabetic comas every single day, though. And the chances of that happening yet again to another police officer on Cayman BRAC is pretty slim, but nothing is impossible. And that is why the RCIPS will now carry out a thorough investigation. Maybe this dude did not have, a recent medical. Police officers are supposed to be in shape, but we know how it goes. They pass that first medical, and then they all put on 50 pounds, and that's it. Good morning, Melinda. Now, I want to say this to you, Melinda. If this was you sleeping on the job, and you've worked in enforcement before, you've worked in the prison system, if you were caught sleeping when you should have been watching the prisoners. Oh, I have the docks mixed up. So, JD, help me out here. Scott's Dock is the one down by the hotel. And then Panama, as they call it, is the other one that's closer to the police station. Is that right? Whatever the case is, the police station isn't really that far away. So that wouldn't have been 2 minutes away from the police station. That would have been 10 minutes or less. So what do you guys think that he would have been doing on the BRAC that would have made him so incredibly tired? What kind of crimes are they solving here? Thank you, Sandra Coe. Now, I'm not trying to make this an expat versus Caymanian topic, but Sandra brings up a valid point, which was the point that I was trying to make to Melinda. Melinda, they would fire you for far less. Right? I have seen officers get fired for forgetting to do certain things on duty, much less sleeping on the job. So, all joking aside, though, this is a very serious thing. Yes, MLAs sleep on the job and we pay them the most money. And we still turn around and re-elect them because we are used to so much slackness in this country. But somebody else said, well, times are tough right now. Everybody needs a job. Yes, that is absolutely correct. Everybody does need a job. And that is why, in my opinion, if you have a job right now, You would do everything in your power to shine and to not cause any unwanted attention on yourself. I mean, honestly, how many of you actually believe that the BRAC police officers are working so hard that they have to sleep on the job? Let us examine what they have been up to. Do you guys remember a gentleman by the name of Mitch Ryan? Mitch got hit. Let me just pull up some information here. He got ran over by someone, most likely DUI, and poor Mitch was left in the street like somebody's dog, worse than a dog, because there are those of you who'd run over a dog and who would stop and call 911 for the dog. The people who ran over poor Mitch Ryan did no such thing. In fact, it appears that not only did they not stop for the poor man, they allowed him to walk and be, my apologies, they allowed him to be run over by another vehicle. And then they go home and allegedly, right? You guys might have forgotten this. They allegedly wash off the car. They wash away the evidence. So poor Mitch, March of last year, over a year ago, age 55 of Cayman BRAC, lost his life in a vehicular fatality. Somebody ran this poor man over. And you know what? Guess what? It's unsolved. They've arrested a bunch of people and charged no one to date. And so this man's family could potentially go with no resolution to this situation. The police have not been able to solve this crime, folks. So, tell me again how hard the police are working on the BRAC. Tell that to Mitch's family, that they have been working so hard. They don't work double and triple shifts on the BRAC. There's no such thing there. So Chelsea says a Caymanian would go home and don't come back to work. Well, that may have been a better position, in my opinion, than sleeping on the job. If you were really that tired, honestly, you could have simply said to your supervisor, I need to go home. I'm not feeling well. Sorry, folks. My sinuses are starting to irritate me again. So, if you think a Caymanian would have gone home and not returned to work, I can assure you that that Caymanian would have been fired. Now listen to me. There are a lot of Caymanians right now who are without employment. And there are a lot over the years who have applied to work for police. Thank you, JD, for the clarification. Scott was by the airport. So there would have been a lot of people who would be thankful for this job, so thankful that the least they could do was stay awake on the job. So all kidding aside, the police on the BRAC are not overworked. They don't have it hard. They're not watching or working triple shifts. And the bottom line is Flashpoint says at the end of the day, the police officer should not have been sleeping on the job. And he says, this is, I don't know if Flashpoint's a man or a woman, but Flashpoint said, maybe the issue is boredom. Well, now, Flashpoint, that I could believe. And I'm going to tell you why. When you get sent to the BRAC to work as an officer, you either are extremely elated that you get to do nothing for most of the time but walk around in your uniform, drive up and down on your shift, probably hang out at the police station most days, or you're really pissed off because someone has sent you to the BRAC as punishment. They're trying to make you be bored to death. And those are the two possibilities. Now, let me tell you guys a little story here. There is a couple in the Cayman Islands. They're no longer involved. The husband was a police officer. They're no longer a police officer, or he isn't. They're now in the real estate business. And they claim that they're big shots in real estate. When this particular individual, he's an English officer, when he was on the police force and yeah, Flashpoint, it was no diabetic coma. He's perfectly fine. When they were working and sent to Little Cayman, which is even more of an exile, they were so bored on the job and had so little to do in Little Cayman that they could often be found on the beach having sex. That was the thing back then. So there were officers from Grand Cayman who would go there to conduct some surveillance and see what this officer was so busy doing, because they had received reports that the police jeep that had been sent there because, oh, I need a jeep to be able to get around Little Cayman and do my job, was parked in one specific spot for so long that it started to grow weeds around it. I want you guys to listen to what I'm saying, okay? That's how little work they were doing on Little Cayman back then. The vehicle would be parked for weeks on end and never moved. The grass was growing up around it. So, to pass the time, they were frolicking on the beach, having sex. Well, at least they're husband and wife and not somebody else having sex with. But whatever. On police time, while he was on a shift, he was out and about having sex with the wife on the beautiful beaches of Little Cayman. And there were people witnessing this, people taking photos. And I suppose you probably think that back in those days, somebody would have been fired for that type of thing. Dennis says, as a former U.S. officer, I've used progress discipline in regards to sleeping officers. It happens a lot when working 12 to 16 hours a day. It's up to the sergeants to make sure the team is ready and the schedule is good. Now, I do not know off the top of my head how many officers they have in Cayman BRAC. And if those of you who do know this, perhaps you can join in the conversation. But yes, Alma, no one is saying it's easy working a 12-hour day. But there are a lot of us who work shifts, or we're up for more than 12 hours, running up and down, doing work. And we know what, listen, there's some days that, listen, it just sets in and you are beyond tired and you just need to take a nap. And for me, as long as I keep moving, I'm good. But the second I sit down, yeah, there's sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to sleep. Sometimes I'm sitting in court listening to cases and I'm like, ugh, this case is so boring. I want to fall asleep right here and right now. I wonder how the judges can stay awake sometimes. And you know what you do? You get up, you take a break, you walk around, you do something to kind of get the blood flowing. You don't sit in your car and fall asleep. What you could have done Maybe he had a big lunch. Maybe he had some oxtails and rice, and now the niggeritis is starting to set in, as us Caribbean people would say. And then you think to yourself, well, I'm really feeling tired. Oh God, the sleep is coming on. You know what? Jump up, folks. Get out of the air conditioning car, because nothing will put you to sleep like air conditioning. So for those of you like, oh, he must have been hot in the car, please. You can't really sleep that well when you are sweating bullets and you are in a hot car with the windows rolled up. You crank that AC down to like 76, put your head back, and boom, you're out like a light. That is what happened here. He wasn't sitting in no hot car. Get real. So what he could have done if he felt it coming on, which I'm sure he did, was get up, go for a walk on the dock, walk around a little bit, wave at the Cubans. Hey, ¿cómo estás? You need anything? The ambulance was parked right in front of him, folks. He could have gone and talked to the ambulance driver, for heaven's sake, to keep himself occupied. There was no need for him to fall asleep. Now, we are so full of excuses for people. We condone bad behavior on this island when it suits us. So I saw people defending this like, oh, what if he was comatose? The man needs his job. You know how many people need a job right now and still don't have a job and are willing to work a 12-hour shift and stay awake on the job? So I'm not buying it. Sorry to say, but there has to be minimum standards that we hold our officers of the law accountable for. And this isn't it. This is beyond anything that should be considered acceptable. Bruce says Little Cayman is so boring, he doesn't even know how anyone or why a BRAC or a Little Cayman officer is even needed. Well, Bruce, you'd be surprised. I mean, it's not like they do a whole lot, but occasionally they pick up the drunk driver. They stop a fight from happening. Yes, Lillian, you find something to do. Or you know what? Here is a shocker. You say to your supervisors in Grand Cayman, my apologies, I'm getting congested again. You say to your supervisors, give me one quick second here, folks. You say to your supervisors, you know what? I don't want to go to Little Cayman because I'm going to be bored to death and I'm not going to be able to do my job. People are acting like officers don't have a choice. If your inspector, your sergeant, the commissioner of police says, we're going to deploy you to Cayman Brac or Little Cayman, and you don't really want to go, you are too bored, I'm pretty sure you have options. One of the options is to simply talk to your superiors about why you don't want to go. And the ultimate option is find another job. Become a prison officer. I'll tell you who else has it very, very cushy. Hold on. Become one of the wardens at the boys or girls home. They don't have to go to Cayman Brac. You know, some of them look like they barely work. They might be falling asleep on the job as well, minding our at-risk youth. This is unacceptable, and we need to stop accepting poor behavior. We accept it from politicians, certain people in government. Somebody was saying to me the other day, Sandy, do you remember when an education, what was her title? Oh God, chief officer doctored, listen to me carefully, folks, doctored a report the government had paid thousands upon thousands of dollars for. And do you think she got fired and lost her job? I agree, Louis. This was a simple assignment. Just do your job and watch the boat. Not only did she not get fired, but she got reassigned. A unit was created for her to put her in charge of the centennial celebrations. And that is what we do in this country. We are so used to mediocre behavior that we actually reward people like this man. Next week, he'll be promoted. He'll get a new promotion. He'll get a pay raise. That is the thinking that some of us are so ingrained with. Like we just don't get it. That is why when you go to private sector and your employers say, yeah, you got to show up on time, you got to stay awake, and you got to do X, Y, Z, you're like, I ain't doing none of that. Because you've been stuck in a public service system for so long where your bad behavior was rewarded or ignored. Aliano's wanting to know about, do officers actually go through any sort of preparedness or readiness before the shift? Well, I would have thought that as an officer, he would know, Aliano, whether he was fit for purpose or not. And yes, we are all human beings, and there's some days we're just not firing on all cylinders. We're not fit for purpose, whatever the situation may be. If you are having one of those days, and like I said, we all have them on occasion. What you do is you simply call in sick. I cannot make it today. I'm not up for the job. And you don't have to go into any long, drawn-out explanation in terms of, what's going on with you. You can just say, I don't feel well. Sometimes you're overtired to the point where you just need to sleep. Jake, thank you. Drop it like it's hot. They said, Jake says, people are defending him because they have an issue with CMR posting it. If those same people saw him themselves, they'd be the first one pointing it out and talk about how government paying him to sleep. And you know what? If those same people lived on the BRAC and their house was being burgled or something else was going on at the moment, or if those Cubans came aboard while he was sleeping and disappeared on Cayman BRAC and couldn't be found for days, then they would be like, oh, well, how did this happen? Well, how it happens is people are permitted to sleep on the job. And some of us seem to think that that behavior is okay. Flashpoint said he could have been in the car studying. A Flashpoint, behave yourself. Flashpoint said maybe he was studying to get that promotion so that he could actually sleep at a desk instead of at the in the car. Oh Lord, Lillian, we did discuss it. By the way, Where is Cindy? Cindy said that she was going to be joining us at 8 o'clock this morning. Cindy, it is now 8:26. You were supposed to be engaging in a debate this morning. You are 26 minutes late, young lady. So what gives? The basic things, folks. When you work for other people, even when you work for yourself, there are rules. There are things that you have to do. And I agree, Morna, there are a lot of people here in this country who come and get in a position like they've never had before. Hardly any work. They're getting the good CI dollars, getting full benefits, 100% insurance, 100% pension. They don't have to do anything, and it doesn't really matter. Karen says that sleeping officer is a Caymanian. Well, I don't know about that. I don't know where he's from. But if I was willing to put my money on it, I would say that is not a Caymanian officer. But you know what? Hold on a second. Let me see what you mean by Caymanian officer. Now, I know we can't go by last names anymore. God knows that's not the case. So Officer Manning, we will get his identification. Not that it matters much whether he's a Caymanian or not, but since you make the point, let us find out. The point that Morna is making, which is a broader point, is we know. Had this officer been in many other jurisdictions, he would be so busy chasing bullets or running from bullets, chasing criminals, and actually working as a police officer, that he would not have the luxury of being able to sit in a police car and take a nap. That's not afforded to most people in most places in the world. Yeah. Flashpoint, yes. Teachers got a livable wage of $5,000 per month. And yeah, their reports haven't been all that great either. But this is the mediocrity that we are used to. We don't really care. We're going to continue to pay people, especially in the civil service. Poor France Manderson, he says he's doing his best. It's supposed to be a world-class civil service, and there are those of them like this that make you think, they're not so world-class after all. Let's talk about world-class civil servants. So I was in court yesterday, and you guys know I'm following a number of cases. I posted up a picture, by the way, where I said I was going to court, and some of you thought that I was going to be in court for myself again. And no, it's not for me, which although I totally get and understand why you think that, because I was thinking to myself last week, I know I keep saying 8 or 9 cases or 10 cases or whatever over the past 10 years, but how many cases have there really been? Because I have literally lost count how many times the DPP has come after me. So yesterday, I went in to criminal registry and I said, give me a list of all of my cases. And they listed them all out. And there have actually been, I think, 9 different cases, but more charges than that. This is how much the DPP has been playing with me over the past 10 years. They've got 1 conviction out of 9. And I know some of you were so happy that they got the 1. But statistically speaking, how the hell do you drag someone for 10 years in and out of court over 9 different case numbers? Like I said, within some of them, there's multiple charges. And you never win a case, but finally you won one last week. And nobody seemed to think, that's crazy. Anyway, I digress. I wasn't there for myself yesterday, but I do let you guys know what I am. So I'm sitting there listening to this case, about the workers, the security guards at the HSA. Now, you guys might remember this case because, ironically enough, CMR, we were the ones to actually break the case wide open in terms of the media. So we reported the government, the HSA, had essentially fired all of their security guards, got rid of the entire team, and there was some investigation that was afoot. So we broke that story, and then eventually we heard that in June of 2018, the HSA security were arrested in this insurance fraud allegation. So February of 2018, I'm just going to refresh your memory here. We were the first ones to put up the story that, interestingly enough, the hospital has placed all security officers on leave, and there was this allegation of wrongdoing. So as I'm sitting there yesterday listening to the case, right? It took them, they made the arrest in June of that year, and then in September of 2019, they finally charged some individuals in relation to this. So I'll just put the links here in case you missed out on the story, right? Now, I'm sitting here listening to the case, and I see HR for the HSA talking about how back in 2014, there were some concerns about Mr. Nick Smith. He's one of the accused. I think he's about 57 or 58 now. About him having recorded that someone had worked overtime on particular days, that it was impossible because that person was not even on island. So I'm thinking to myself, what the hell? So from 2014, there were concerns about something that Mr. Nick had done. The HSA HR person, Miss Riley or something her name is, I need to get her first name. She's sitting there saying in court yesterday that they believed that this was just an honest mistake. Mr. Smith gave an explanation about how he was handling overtime, which really wasn't correct procedurally. Like, if you've ever done time management and overtime, that's not how you do it. So basically he's saying that, listen, somebody would work overtime and he didn't want to put all of the overtime into 1 month. So he would just randomly pick dates in the future to allocate the overtime to. And that's not how it works, right? Like, if you say somebody worked overtime this weekend from 9 to 5, that's when they actually should have worked. Otherwise, you're falsifying a document. Anyway, that happened back in 2014. And it came to the attention of the HSA because of this discrepancy with the person not being on island. So it's kind of like a glaring, like, they were not even here. So then I'm going back to court today to see where this is leading up to. The questions that started to come from the defense team was like, was he offered any training? You know, you're saying that obviously the man has some sort of an issue with the ability to schedule people and to understand how overtime should be allocated. So you said it wasn't malicious. You don't believe there was any fraudulent intent. That being the case, what did you offer him by way of training? Oh, 1 day of shadowing somebody else was the response. And it was kind of like, what the heck are you saying? Slackness, folks. All over. So I'm not surprised a lot of times when I see certain things. Alric, let's talk about that here in a second. Let me just take a quick commercial break because my sinuses again are getting a bit crazy. We'll be right back after these messages. All right, folks. There's some days I can go through an entire box of tissue just in the morning show because my sinuses are just crazy today. And it's happening again. I don't know what's going on with the weather, if it's the weather or whatever, but I got my little rubbing alcohol here. Alric makes a good point, and I'm going to segue now into a slightly different conversation. We tend to see bad behavior of certain people go unpunished. Not many people are held accountable. Strange thing is, if you ask people to be accountable, you're the one that gets treated like the one doing the bad behavior. Yes, Alric. This is very typical of people. And I saw that in some of the comments yesterday as well. Oh, Cayman Road, always up in people's business. What does this have to do with you? Excuse me. The last time I checked, I paid government fees, I paid duties, I paid business licensing, I paid work permit fees if I need someone to work for me. I pay all of these things so that government can have a budget which they will then use to operate this country and to pay civil servants their salaries. So most civil servants appear to forget that they actually work for the people of this country. So yes, it's my business. This police officer works for us, the people. And I don't care whether you like it or not. That is the reality under which we are operating. And he is to be held accountable by his superiors, his supervisors, and if they don't do it, by the people of this country. Oh, Cindy is finally here. Cindy, you are 38 minutes late, young lady.
Oh, I know. Mommy duties.
I don't care. You must be like that police officer falling asleep on the job. Now, listen, Alec was just saying, Cindy, that we seem to want to accept bad behavior from people all the time. Now, Cindy's going to weigh in on this because she felt really strongly that we should have left the police officer alone. Now, let me just say this. Somebody else was just asking about the pyramid scam, which we have covered, but that is another example of bad behavior that people do not think that we should be calling out. And so that lady who was highlighted a couple days ago, Jacqueline Smith, her daughter's been messaging, oh, this is my mom. You know, she's a good person. She's this. Listen, I'm not saying your mom's not a good person. I don't know your mom. So it's not for me to make that determination. What we reported on is that there are people who are involved in this pyramid scam who should have known better, to be honest. But they had, you know, ideas of a big payout who are now left holding the bag, right? Losing at least $500 of their hard-earned money. One person said to me yesterday, they're unemployed. They're not even working. But yet they could find $500 to give to Miss Jackie. Now that the system has gone bust, she's talking all kind of foolishness about how it worked and you're responsible for your money. Listen, we need to hold people accountable. Sorry, Cindy?
At least people pension actually reached that far. Okay, expected that to be done from they collected that.
Now, Cindy's on this show, and you guys know, anytime you guys want to come on the program to debate with us, you certainly can. Cindy has volunteered today. Cindy, give us the lowdown. What do you think? Were you listening to the show this morning, by the way?
No, I had to due to technical difficulties. I am just getting back on. Thanks to Digicel.
All right, so give us your. We've addressed the fact that he wasn't sleeping. I mean, he wasn't comatose. He wasn't sick. He's not overworked. So we've addressed all of those issues that are concerns that people brought up. The dude was just sleeping. So give us your lowdown and what you think. Why
Okay,
give him a pass?
if it's a pattern behavior, yes, it needs to be addressed, right? But we don't know the circumstances. We don't know how he was feeling. Like, come on, like sometimes your sugar can drop. Sometimes you just feel tired. Have you felt this heat? Sandy, you always driving with your AC up. So I don't even want to hear the complaints about you bearing it also. You can afford to drive with your windows up and AC blasting all day, every day. 'Cause I sure know if you did one day of feeling this heat out here, I don't even think my road would be so active. But I know who. If it's just one time, I think he should be let off with a warning, not to abuse his power. But to like bash these officers for everything we see them done, do make the bad overweigh the good. Yes, we do need to get rid of the bad because you have corrupted officers, and I'm knocking that in half them have to go. My thing is also look how much Caymanians apply for policing. And you don't even hear back from them. But then when you look, every graduation, you're seeing expats. You're seeing Jamaicans that are married to Caymanians. And I'm not biased, biased or nothing like that. My father's Jamaican, so it's in me. But I speak the truth. I was born and raised in the Cayman Islands. You understand? So it's not even nothing like I hate Jamaicans. I honestly don't. I'm married, happily married to one. So I just don't feel like we should bash them and put them down for everything that they do. If he abuses his power, as in to be sleeping on the job on the regular, yes, it needs to be addressed. He needs to be.
So Cindy, let me ask you a question. How many times do you think he needs to be caught sleeping on the job before he gets fired?
No.
And we're not necessarily saying he should get fired, but I'm just asking. How many times do you think before it becomes a problem?
After one time and he get a warning. After one time he get a warning and he's caught sleeping on the job, whatever comes his way, he asks for it. You understand? So it's not even like he can blame my road or whatever, even though I do wrong you for posting that picture. That was not.
All right, so let me ask you a question now. Right? Well, first of all, he was sitting behind an ambulance. Heaven forbid the ambulance actually needed to get out. But anyway, that's a whole different argument. I guess maybe they would have been able to wake him up, but other people were not successful in waking him up, making noise around the car because he must have had the AC so high that I don't know. So he is sitting at the dock, supposed to be watching the Cubans. Right? That's what he was doing. He wasn't pulled off the road in the bushes, taking a lunch break. He was sent to Spot's dock to watch the Cuban nationals who were out in the ocean, potentially coming aboard, the migrants who could have COVID, could have been dangerous individuals, anything, and he literally just falls asleep on the job before CBC shows up.
Some stuff are just uncontrollable. Like I can be sitting down for an hour and more and you get tired. If you're not active, you're going to get.
Yeah, but as a police officer, get out the car. Nobody's forcing him to stay in the car.
Human. He's human. Who going to stand up in that raw heat? Sandy, you need to volunteer to go stand up and watch them migrants when they come in.
I would listen. When I was on the BRAC, I was in and out of the car every 2 seconds. And yes, it's hot. Okay. You hydrate yourself with your water and you do your job. Why are we setting the bar so low? He's tired. Tired from doing what? Solving crime?
So low. I believe in second chances. Which you rob me once, I get a second chance to rob me again. It's totally different. Okay. So I'm justifying his actions. I'm just saying. We don't understand how he felt if he had a heat stroke. You understand? Sun take him over. He just needed to rest his eyes a little. Sometimes, listen, I actually say that I'm legally blind. Like I could be active and working and stuff, and my eyes start hurting me. Sometimes I just need to take a 5 to re-up myself. And not even that I tired or sleep or anything, you know. Cindy, which police give you know what?
Yes, exactly. That's a good question. Which one of them is going to catch you
No,
sleeping in a
you have
car?
officers. You have good officers. Like an officer pulled me over one time and he let me know why he pulled me over and he let me know the cost of why he pulled me over. And I said, sir, I genuinely did not know. And he gave me a certain date to get it sorted. And I got it sorted and went to the police station and show him that I got it sorted because I honestly just never know. You
So
understand?
Marsha blames us, says that we're making up stories. You were not there. We were not there, but the young man who was there provided us with more than enough information. And in fact,
That who took the picture?
yes,
He bad mind. Whoever that
he
is, they
confirmed
bad
the
mind.
AC was running.
You
He
could
confirmed.
never, Sandy, you know, see, he never went to wake up that officer. You know, he was killing himself laughing and couldn't wait to plaster that all over social media. That bad mind, you need to get that out of your heart. Like, come on, man. That is straight up bad mind. Too much songs out
Um,
there talking about bad mind and people still have it up inside of their heart. Come on,
he
man.
called the police station
Look
to
at him.
see if the officer was actually on duty and working.
Why didn't he wake up the officer? Sir, are you okay? Do you need a bottle of water? Do you need a
He actually attempted to make noise outside the car, and that police officer was not budging. But why is that his job? It's everybody's fault, but the police
We
officer.
are human, Sandy. We don't know what took that officer.
Absolutely, we are.
I'm not.
And we addressed that. We said, go home.
But I
Go
am
home. Take a nap. Come off duty if you're that tired. You're not working overtime on the BRAC.
I just saying a lot of Caymanians can fill a position, that position, are qualified Caymanians, but they're held back with simple drug substance charges, simple petty crimes and stuff like that. Caymanians
Because you know why, Cindy? Because you don't get a second chance a lot of times in life. There are consequences to your behavior, but you're sitting here telling me that there shouldn't be any consequences for this officer.
I want to address Karen Bennett. Karen Bennett, she said that it's not his job to wake him up. If your mother, God forbid, inside that car having a heat stroke, heart attack, or God forbid, what other...
But what if it's none of those things? The police will carry out an independent investigation.
How do you know? How do you know?
Like we said, he obviously woke up afterwards and he's perfectly fine. So he didn't have a heat stroke. He didn't have a heart attack.
Basing off of, we don't know how he felt in the moment. Sandy, this son is nothing to play with. People drop down up to the other day. A young man, a young teenage boy. He wasn't, I don't think he was more than 21, 22, dropped down and died the other day.
No, he was actually 38 years old.
No, that little young boy era. That little young boy.
That was the young man from East End?
No.
Which
one?
Well,
my name is the one. Well, I don't know personally where he's from, but I met him in Bordentown when I was living there. He was a sweet, respectable young man. I don't know his real name.
Yeah, that wasn't a heat stroke, but we don't want to put the man business out there. That had nothing to do with heat stroke. However, he's sitting in an air conditioning car. Where's the heat stroke coming in? He had the choice to say, "I'm not feeling well. Send somebody else to cover my shift."
Like I say, at the end of the day, no, we're not paying these officers to sleep inside of their car. But I feel he should be given a warning. I don't think he should lose his job, especially in this hard time. It was hard before.
I don't think people are necessarily saying that he should lose his job, although a lot of people would lose their job.
A lot of those people, he should have lose his job. That is not.
Well, guess what? If you fell asleep on your job, I'm pretty sure you would have been fired.
Listen, they would have to catch me sleeping first.
Oh, so you're not gonna sleep on the job?
You not listen, they would have to catch me sleeping first. Like I don't okay, I have to occupy my time and be active for me not to get tired. Even to a child that sits down by the table for 1 hour. Look at it. A child can sit down in front of a game and play for 1 hour and don't get tired. They only get more and more excited at that game. You sit that child down at that table and tell them to do their spellings or stuff like that, all of a sudden, not even 3 seconds good, they start yawning. Come on, man.
So boredom is okay on the job.
What?
Boredom is excuse is an
It's
excuse.
not boredom, Sandy. We don't know how the guy felt in the moment, why he decided to take a nap, and I genuinely do not feel he was abusing his power as to why he fell asleep on the job.
So Alec wants to know with MLAs if we would view them any differently. Alec, we have posted MLAs sleeping in the Legislative Assembly before, and honestly, we see them no different, except they can't get fired in the same way. But I think any MLA who is too bored to be staying awake during the people's business should likewise be fired. And the ironic thing about it is once again, people come forward with all sorts of excuse for the LA members. Oh gosh, they're working so hard. Mind you now, LA only meets like once every quarter for a week or two when they're pushing through all these bills. Half the time they don't even show up to the LA meetings. They take 10 breaks a day and they get 3 to 4 square meals plus snacks. And we still give them excuses for why they're tired. Cindy, is it possible in this country that we just have a very low standard?
Honestly, I'm not making no excuse for no MLAs. I remember one time when all of them was at odds, right? I don't want to say the wrong thing, but somebody had said that even in McKeever's school days, he used to sleep. So they don't understand how he even make it as far to become premier. Listen, I laughed until I weak because just listen, that was funny. Really and truly, that was funny. And to be honest with you, all our MLAs is sleeping. Not all. I take it back. Big up Kenneth, Joey Hugh to extent. Ezard. Listen, everybody that voted no, me them down. But down to our premier is sleeping on us. At least we can say that much. Because if they were to really was for their people, they wouldn't have time to sleep in the LA. They'd be too busy getting Caymanians into jobs, seeing to it that a permit does not get approved until they interview and explain why a Caymanian wasn't selected for a position. Work is there, yes, but I don't think work is as proactive as they should be. Like, you can apply for a job and work is there to send out your resume and stuff. You get the interview. I don't think they comes down hard on these employers to say, why weren't they selected? Why is an expat being chosen over a Caymanian? I don't think a permit should be approved until you show how much Caymanians applied for it and why they weren't selected for the jobs. Then again, Caymanians not going to work for $6-7 an hour.
Okay, Cindy, let me ask you a question. The question is, are we okay with having different standards, like different strokes for different folks?
No, we're not okay. And that's why I said I'm not justifying his actions. He was wrong for sleeping on the job. However, I think he should be given a warning.
Okay.
I think he should be given a warning. And if it happens again, he loses his job. He can't blame CMR. He can't blame people taking his picture. He can't blame no one but himself.
Now, Dean Shalette makes a good point. But this is probably not the first time that he has fallen asleep, and that's why he was so comfortable doing it. Do you actually believe in your heart of hearts that this is a one-off, first-time incident for this police officer? Just be honest.
Who am I to judge? That's what I thought to say.
But you, listen, your money, whatever bills you pay in this country,
if we never
goes towards paying the salary of civil servants. So yes, you can judge, you can hold them accountable. The same way you can say that another officer isn't performing on the job, then you're judging them about their performance. Who are you to judge them?
No, I speak as I see it. That's a total difference. I speak as I see it. Like an officer know me already. Half of them don't like me because they know that I'm not stopping at them. If I have to go to higher heads, I'm going to higher heads to make sure exactly what they told me is accurate. Like I don't stop at them. So
Sue says he might have sleep apnea. So this is the point, though, that I'm trying to make. We have every single excuse in the book, except for pure slackness. You know, there's a saying that if it smells like a wet dog, looks like a wet dog, it probably is a wet dog.
yeah.
Like the path of least resistance, what it looks like is probably what it is. So everybody, or he might have had sleep apnea, he might have had a stroke, he might have had a heart attack. He might have worked 5,000 shifts. He might have solved a crime. All this woulda, coulda, shoulda, maybe, but there's no evidence to prove any of that. In fact, we have evidence to disprove most of that, and still people are willing to give people a pass who are engaging in bad behavior. So the point that Alwick makes is we are very comfortable with people not performing. And we're like, that's okay. People doing the wrong things, and we give them excuses. Is it not time that maybe we start to hold people to a higher standard? What about that?
Yes, we honestly do. We honestly do. We need to. But
think about the pyramid scammer, right? Let's just switch a little bit here because we have people defending her as well. Oh, she's a good person. She's this, she's that. Right. So when a good person decides to get involved in something like a pyramid scam, whether they fully understand it or not, if they're promising people all sorts of big payouts for their money, and they engage in behavior and they do things that are wrong, and we have to call them jackasses.
First of all, whoever started that pyramid scam, whatever, I have so much questions for y'all. Number one, where the money coming from?
It's coming from people who are coming into it. That's why it's called a pyramid scam. Because you don't make money on it unless you recruit people.
You know what you can do with $500? Especially having 4 kids. I don't know about nobody else, but you know what I can do with $500, and I must invest that into something that I'm not even 100% sure is legit. Like Cayman too small in lightheaded for them things. You understand? As hard as we say life is, as hard as this COVID been to us, how much people lost their jobs, you could really look on top of me and ask me to invest $500 talking shit about 3,000. Listen, you know what?
Louis says that it was a drug boat. His eyes would have been open for sure. Maybe. I don't know.
See, that's another accusation. Calling bad name down on that officer. What are you trying to say? The officer
but the point that Louis is trying to make is what sort of stakeout would it have needed to be for him to be paying attention? Because police only seem to pay attention to drugs. So the other criminals don't get much attention, I guess. I don't know. But I think that's the point that Louis is trying to make here. You know, they picked up almost 50 packages.
Well, you tell Louis Rivers to go volunteer his time to go collect the drugs. And call me when he collect it once no police are behind him. Tell him go volunteer to do that.
Consuelo says you should not have been sleeping on the job. He's an officer, and if he was sleepy, he could have went home. He should be held accountable. Darlene says that's exactly right. Standards are too low all around, from our leaders to other public servants. And Brandon is having a good laugh, probably about that comment you just made, Cindy, encouraging Louis to give you a call, which we're not going to be advocating any bad or illegal behavior on this show.
Don't take me serious. That was just a little humor, but he get the point. He get the drift.
All right, let me ask you another question, Cindy. We had a discussion of Jackass of the Day a couple of weeks ago, last week I think it was, of a lady with her gold bracelet, and you went hard on her, right? You held her accountable.
No, she's a proper scammer.
But what separates her from anybody else?
Listen, if I had found that bracelet, my first instinct would have been to return that. You know, I found stuff in messages, say, hey, Sandy, I found this. put it out there, see who needs it, or who lost it or whatever, because some stuff are the littlest of things are really sentimental to people. Like
Yeah.
I held on to my grandfather's shirt after he died, literally, and I still have that up inside my closet hang up. Like that comforts me. Stuff
Yeah.
like that really is sentimental, but the fact that she went out of her way to put that there was a reward, no, that motivates people to bring back your stuff. But regardless of the matter of the fact, you understand, you find something and it's not yours, do the right thing. Put it out there that this is found. If anybody don't claim it, what's found is gone. You understand? But she put herself out there to say that there was a reward for it. And the man turned it back in. He not responsible whether he come back broken, piece broken, it bent up or whatever. That's how he found it. And you said once it's returned, it's a 500 reward. Get a man back his money. And she know damn well when she made that post, she wasn't talking about no US. Me?
Okay, so the overarching point then, Cindy, is when people are charged with doing something, or they're going to say they do something, or it's part of their job, we expect them to do it. You're in agreement with that?
No, that's a whole different scenario, Sandy. Money causes friends to become enemies.
Well,
Money causes long relationships to
hold
end.
people accountable.
Huh?
So we were trying to hold her accountable for saying one thing and doing something different. So my point is the same standard of accountability, right? Which we should apply to ourselves, to our family members, our kids, civil servants. Should it
What
really
they're saying
matter?
is true to an extent.
Okay.
That woman clearly put herself in the public's eye as a dishonest thief. That officer never steal nothing. That honest wasn't dishonest.
No, but I mean, it's not about what they did. It's about accountability. So if we're going to expose one person for something that we say this is not on the up and up, right? Sleeping police is also not on the up and up. You know, it's actually an offense. A lot of people don't know this, but it is a criminal offense for you to be sleeping in your vehicle with the car running.
Well, then I
You
catch
would be
you.
arrested. Police would be issuing you a ticket. So all I'm saying is, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Listen, we if you didn't come down on one, you need to come down on all.
That's my point. That is exactly my point.
I've seen way worse than an officer actually sleeping on the job. I see officers on the doing sirens coming down from Crew Road. Only time
And we report them all once we get the information. I remember back in the day when they passed the law about people can't, you have to be hands-free on your phone. Every single time I would see a police officer in their phone, I would take a picture and send it to the police commissioner and say, is the rule just for civilians? Is there a different set of rules why officers are allowed to be like this on the phone and driving?
Mm-hmm.
What gives?
Well, you know something, we get a joke. I took an officer the other day. I wrote up my personal ticket and write his ass up for parking on a double yellow line and leaving his car there to go do whatever he needed to do. Okay. I wrote on top of paper that he's fined $500. I know if he ever knows it with me, he would load up.
So the point then, Cindy, is there's certain people in this community that we actually should have a higher expectation of.
Yes.
Officers are supposed to be setting an example because they tell you and they try to enforce the law about when you've done something wrong and when you haven't done something wrong. So
this is the thing, right? Police is hiring officers that don't even know the law. Officers, they do not even know the law. How are they getting hired?
Well, that supports my position even more.
How is a man that is on trial in Jamaica for murder allowed to come to the Cayman Islands and get a job as a police? Yet Caymanians that have a little traffic slap on the wrist, a little traffic matter, a little small drug substance, you understand, like little petty crimes, can't get in the police force. Why is it we are seeing more expats than Caymanians in the police force? Whether they're married to Caymanians, these are the things we need to look into because it's basically who you know.
Well,
What kind of qualifications do you need to be a safety officer? What kind of degrees do you need to be a safety officer, to be a human being, to go to people door to door, ask about their concerns in stuff that they think needs to be done in their community to make it a better place? You understand? A Caymanian can't do that.
okay. So, in other words, you are agreeing with me, Cindy.
I not full agreeing with you, Sandy. Like I say, that man was wrong for sleeping on the job, but
Yes.
I think he deserves to get a warning. And if it happens again, goodbye, buddy. So
Yeah,
long.
we never said that he should be fired. We just said he needs to be held accountable. And accountability comes in different forms. So it might be a written warning. It could be an oral warning. I mean, we don't know who this officer is or anything about his track record. But accountability is accountability.
My first instinct was just to check if he was okay. Why was he sleeping on the job? We don't know how he felt. Whether he felt dizzy, whether he felt nauseous, what the case.
Well, like we said, the most logical thing, which is pure slackness, is probably what it was. I'm just saying.
You know what? At the end of the day, they need to hire Caymanians. You take it.
You missed the conversation earlier. One of the persons in the conversation here in the chat said that a Caymanian would have gone home to sleep and never came back to work. That's what somebody said earlier.
Marcia Davis Thompson, that's not true. That is not true. A lot of people are in the police force. A lot of people in the police force have not done policing before. This was their first luck applying and getting through.
Uh-huh. All right, folks. So let's weigh in on the debate today. Who won today's debate? Cindy did a good job. Let's see it for Cindy. Let's give Cindy a round of applause for putting forth her position. Let's do a quick poll here. Karen, Marcia, Louie, Darlene, Consuelo, Sue, regardless of where you are on the topic, do you think that Cindy convinced us, or she put forward her position here? Did she win? Marcia's saying that she didn't know that sometimes they hire officers who are not anyone that has experience as an officer. Yes, a lot of people. Irvelyn is giving you some claps there. Yornell says police is a paramilitary organization. They're expected to work long and tough hours. If he's found sleeping, he should be chewed up by supervisors and properly disciplined. However, it is heartless to dismiss a police officer for sleeping.
We're not
so if they're paramilitary, you're now. It seems to me that they are not up to the job. They're too soft. If he came on at 7 o'clock that morning, and by 2 o'clock he already needed to have a nap. Listen, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. So, I mean, yeah, he hadn't been working 12 hours yet. All right, so Louis says you were enlightened. That's a nice way of saying that I might have schooled you.
I don't tell Louis what to go do.
Lillian says Cindy has a good heart. Yes, she's one of them good-hearted Caymanians, child, that can make people run all over her.
Nobody run over me. I keep it real. Like, I gonna shit talk when I read it, but when I read it too, I can let you know how it is. You know, we be arguing on WhatsApp, off of Facebook, 24/7 on topics that we don't need to be on social media. So we gotta agree to disagree. Like, I can let you know 100 how I feel about the situation, and then I can be a hypocrite about the situation. That could be anybody in that position.
Darlene says, I don't agree that he not given a second chance, but it's a job and you have to always be diligent.
That is true, Miss Darlene, but like you said, a lot of people, me, in my personal opinion, a lot of people put out there that he should be fired. He should be given a warning. Yes, we need to raise our standards in policing, MLAs, politics. Stop letting in regular C-mode people. If you know somebody's a liar and a thief and a dishonest person, don't vote for him to become an MLA. If an officer is not keeping his standards where they're supposed to be above and beyond, we need to let them go. Give them a warning and let them go. Cindy, I love you too, sister. Truth, we have to defend. You don't go long.
Louis sending you some love.
Man, I hope that not Judas love now. Cause a kiss give away Jesus now.
But hold on. If you can give the police officer the benefit of the doubt, you give Louis the benefit of the doubt too.
I done tell Louis what to do. Why Louis still? Yeah, he got a job to do. He's supposed to be patrolling, looking out for drugs.
Well, that's Louis' opinion. And he's entitled to it. Lillian says she knows you from when you were 7 years old and proud of you.
Aww.
Marcia says, yes, you have a big heart, but
I got
it is what it is. Thank you, Cindy, for joining in on the debate this morning. And we'd like to welcome anyone who wants to come on board and debate with us. Any topic, you can jump in. We have no problems with it.
See, as fast as y'all post is up the negative about officers, I'd like to see some positives about the officers.
Oh, no.
We have some
Hold up,
officers
Cindy.
out there.
Hold up.
Why can't somebody come down? Hold on. Why can't anybody come down Windsor Park and take a picture of Tamara Jackson?
How many times have we not posted? Remember the one police officer in Georgetown who likes to do all the hand signals and
My mother was the first one to post him and send him out.
No, listen, we have posted him helping people, handicapped women in their wheelchair. We have posted him entertaining people. We've posted him on numerous occasions. And anytime they do right and we get the information, just like we get the good, we get the bad.
You come down Windsor Park and take a picture of Miss Tamara Jackson busting her ass off in the community for Windsor Park. We are proud of her. We love her.
Why didn't you send the picture?
I'll definitely send it to you because she's been a part of the cleanup of Windsor Park. That lady has been out there raking, sweating, doing everything she possibly can. Get the community straight. I love that lady. She's very straightforward.
It is as easy as that, folks. CMR is everywhere because you guys put us everywhere. So all you have to do, you see something good happening in the community,
I'd rather send the negative first.
Jake is having a good laugh. He said he can't stop laughing. I am... Guy says Cindy's real definition of Cayman kind.
Fans loves me.
Marcus says keep that up, love. You have inside of you, Cindy. God bless you. And Darlene says I love Cindy. She could help you in hosting sometimes. Child, Cindy would love that.
You know that. Thank you very much for having me on and stop posting the negatives. We need more positives than negatives right now.
Send us the positive, Cindy. Send us the positive.
Will do. Have a lovely day, my lovely friend.
Thank you. Have a good one. All right. So Cindy is out. Thank you so much, Cindy, for joining us. JD says there may be good cops, but they're the exception and not the norm. And that's kind of sad, though, when you think about it. Because I don't necessarily think that they're the exception, not the norm. But as Cindy said, the bad cops always seem to outshine the good ones. And they always stand out in our minds more because that is human nature. Listen to me. If you have a bad customer service experience, this is something I want you guys to think about, right? You have a bad customer service experience anywhere. It takes you 10 more positive experiences, and this is how the human mind is wired. It takes you 10 more positive experiences for you to be able to get over that single bad experience. What does that tell you, folks? It tells you, number one, the significance of a bad experience and the impression that it has on the human mind. And I think part of it, to be honest, is we are wired for self-preservation and to protect ourselves. So when something bad happens to us, the brain is like, I don't want to go through that again. So we hang on to the bad. right? And there's a whole bunch of evidence, scientific evidence, and how bad things change our minds. Our very DNA is altered by bad experiences. So people who go through horrific things like the Holocaust, African American people who went through slavery and who continue to be hunted and tormented by governments around the world and police around the world, their DNA, and this is your mitochondrial DNA, has been altered because trauma and bad experiences have a way of changing people. Now, I know that sounds crazy, folks, but I want you to look it up for yourselves. And if a bad experience can change your DNA, it means that it can impact future generations of your people. This is how significant it is. On a simpler level, if you own a company, you work for a company, you work in the civil service, bad experiences are amplified in a person's mind. And the brain has a way of dealing with that. You can look up how the brain purges bad memories, how it deals with trauma, how it deals with the bad experience. But in terms of customer service, it takes you at least 10 times to get over that one bad experience. And listen, normally what ends up happening is if a person has a bad experience, they're not going to keep going back to the same company 10 times to give them 10 different chances. Sometimes that bad experience can be enough for you to simply walk away and never look back. So there is a logical explanation for why people see something like this, like an officer asleep on the job, and they're like, this is wrong, and they're going to highlight it because that is a bad experience for them. And so that's what it is. All right. We had a few more things that we wanted to discuss this morning, so let's jump into some of those. We have about less than 15 minutes left on the program. So yesterday we had another exclusive for you. Cayman Airways has retired one of their planes. Nobody else brought you this story in the Cayman Islands, but CMR is on the job, folks. Thanks to all the good people who share the information with us, and we certainly do put it together. So we have, I'm just trying to pull up the video here if I can, footage of the water salute. And this was 737-300. Retired. And we reported on this actually last September, that this plane was going into retirement and that it would indeed be taken out of commission for commercial flights. And it's one of the hard things to really comprehend because, of course, we have the MAX 8, which we are waiting on. We're still trying to figure out what's going on with that particular plane. But when that is finally cleared for takeoff, hopefully Boeing goes through all of the required safety requirements and gets that off the ground. We do know that the reason why we were keen to purchase some new planes is because a lot of our fleet is pretty old. So this 737, I'm just going to pull it up here, is an older plane. It's almost 30 years old, and I think that that's pretty old, but it will remain in commission as a cargo flight. So evidently we had sold it to, let me just pull it up here. We had sold it to a company who wanted to take it on hit the wrong button on that one. My apologies. So yes, we received some exclusive footage on the fact that this aircraft yesterday was officially being retired out of service for Cayman Airways after 16 years. We've had it for, and the plane is about 28 years old, so almost 30 years old. And it is now going to be, well, we already have agreed to sell the plane to someone else as a cargo plane. So let me just show you guys the footage. We do have some additional information coming up later on again today. Inspire Cayman, congratulations to Michael Miles. They had a ceremony yesterday where 4 of their young men, so again, we're talking about employers who are saying to young Caymanians, you need to have standards. You need to, what we call soft skills, show up on time to work. Don't fall asleep on the job. Come presentable, know how to conduct an interview. So yesterday, 4 of the young men who've been studying since July in the various programs that are offered at Inspire Cayman actually have perfect attendance in their program. And they were awarded some little gifts yesterday, courtesy of R3, nonprofit organizations. So R3 was on hand with Brian Adams and Brian Hunter, my apologies, and a few other representatives from R3 were there as well. So we were very pleased to be able to attend that ceremony and, you know, highlight the importance. So yes, Joanna Bodden was there as well. It's important to highlight people when they do good things. And CMR is all about highlighting the good. Trust me. I have to admit that there are times when the bad gets more attention than the good. And like I said, that is just human nature. So absolutely, we were there yesterday covering that. We have footage. We have the story that's going to go up later as well. And we want to congratulate those young men for doing the right thing. So you are rewarded for doing the right thing, just like you are often punished for doing the wrong thing. All right? So here we are, Cayman Airways. All right, folks, so congratulations to the plane, I guess, Cayman Airways. One less plane in operation. I don't know what that will mean to scheduling. In some ways, you think it's probably a good idea that we kind of have a lull in travel requirements with COVID until we can figure out what's happening with the MAX 8s and what's going to be, you know, sort of the next thing that we do. I think that unfortunately, even after they bring that plane back into commission, there's going to be a lot of people who are not going to be entirely keen on jumping on that plane. The first couple of times, they're going to be like, I don't know if I want to take that chance or not. But Boeing claims that they're going to get it sorted out. Other news stories that we have been watching for you, just to keep you guys in the loop. The young man here, what's his name? Andy McAlpine. Remember, he was arrested a few weeks back, and he was permitted over the weekend to travel from Orlando, Florida to California. Because remember, it was the federal agents actually in San Diego, California, that's the court, the federal court that he has to show up in. So that's where his indictment came down from. So the U.S. government allowed him, the courts in Orlando, he had to show up for a court appearance. They allowed him to post $1 million bond. And then he had a friend who posted a couple $100,000 bond. And he has to wear an ankle, a GPS bracelet. And he was permitted to keep one of his 3 passports, which was the British passport, which presumably he got through Cayman Islands residency. And he had to relinquish 2 other passports. Probably the Canadian one and probably the Cayman one, I would guess. But anyway, he has relinquished 2 passports, kept one, so that he could travel from Orlando, Florida to San Diego, California. And he appeared in court yesterday afternoon for his first hearing. So he is facing some allegations of being involved in a multi-million-dollar, yes, I did say multi-million-dollar, what they call a pump and dump securities fraud case. And he was arrested. We were the first ones again to break the news that he was arrested, leaving a flight, leaving from the Cayman Islands on a chartered plane to Canada. They stopped in Orlando. The feds grabbed him, and that was the whole plan, really. So, you know, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. But he's facing some serious charges. They allege some co-defendants. They picked up another guy the same day that they arrested him, and then they said that they were actually on the hunt for a few others. So it made the news, but I'm pleased to say that Cayman Mall Road was the first news media anywhere in the world to cover the fact that he'd been arrested. Now, interestingly enough, you know, it's all over the local news now, and it's all over even the international news. There's a Canadian newspaper here that carried it a couple of days ago. And his wife, in case you missed this story, she did a letter to us. I don't think she sent it to anybody else. And I found it very, very interesting, where basically she said that God works in mysterious ways. And it's a bit of tongue-in-cheek situation, because I think that in her mind, she was trying to say, well, here you were trying to make us look bad, but look, God works in mysterious ways, because now all of my friends are coming forward and being supportive of me. And, you know, despite COVID, I'm still going to live an absolutely fabulous life. Well, as we said to one of his friends who said to us, you need to take this story down because it's fake news. They all want to claim that. I wonder if they're going to talk to BBC about it being fake news and take the story down. I hardly think so. So not only was it not fake news, just because we had it first doesn't mean it's fake news, but she's of the opinion that we have brought unwanted attention to her. But despite that, God works in mysterious ways. So God has her back, and he's going to make sure that she's okay with her lavish lifestyle that she's become accustomed to. So enough to feed me for 3 weeks, she says. She had friends drop off food, and she wants to thank them from the bottom of her heart. That is so nice. I mean, I can't imagine that your husband was involved in a pump and dump scheme, and you were actually within the first week concerned about starving to death, and friends had to drop off food for you. I'm sure they're just doing it to make you feel better, but believe it or not, Miss McAlpine, there are people in this country who really are starving. And the 3 weeks of food that you now have stockpiled, which I'm sure you had a fridge full of food anyway, could very well go towards feeding other people who are in need. So donate some of that food. If you really believe that God works in mysterious ways, donate some of that food to other people who are actually more in need than you are. So she quoted Marlon Brando about trouble come knocking on everybody's door, and this time it is knocking on mine. Well, the truth of the matter is, when we talk about, again, honesty and accountability, this is not the first time the SEC has been knocking on your husband's door, and by extension, knocking on your door. This may be the most serious of the allegations because, once again, when we do not hold people accountable, we allow them to continue with their bad behavior. So it's crazy. David Marchand, oh my gosh, I did not notice this. David Marchand actually commented on the story. There's the link, folks, on CMR, and he wants to know who knew that God supported penny stock fraudsters. Oh, these comments, I didn't even realize, to be honest, that this story had tons of comments, but the comments are really, really interesting now that I'm seeing that they're there. So big shout out to David Marchand. As you guys know, he is the owner and operator of Offshore Alert. So thank you, David, for pointing out that he's been involved in penny stock fraud for at least 20 years. And he is now finally going to be held accountable, perhaps, for his behavior. It's amazing the things that people get away with. And when we sit on this show and we say, let's hold people accountable, we are tarnished with, oh, you guys are haters. You're bad people. Why are you reporting on this? My husband's a good man. He likes to go to church and he prays with people in his church and blah, blah, blah. So you shouldn't report the truth on him. Like I said to their friends when they called me, I said, listen to me. We report on the man across the street who's being, whether he's Caymanian, Jamaican, Honduran, it doesn't matter, being subjected to a drug bust. And yes, we will report on your husband, a highfalutin multimillionaire living in your precious, multi-million-dollar home in Grand Harbor that you have gotten off of cheating other people. And you have been able to raise your children in the lap of luxury because someone has been defrauding other people. And I don't care what mysterious ways God works in. I do not think God condones theft or stealing from other people and that sort of thing. So yes, Karen, a high sense of entitlement attitude. That's exactly what it reeked of. And it was just absolutely amazing to me. The rich has to play as the poor to get sympathy. Well, she's not even, that letter to me was like, what the heck? She wasn't getting any sympathy from me. At first I was even like, do we even print this? Because this is just so next level ridiculous. But yes, people send us information and we're going to print it up and we're going to put it out. It's interesting that she thought that that it should be, I don't even know what to say. Sometimes they just flabbergast me. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We did not get to talk about the issue of vaping in schools. Apparently, this is something that is going on. There's another story that we're working on about a young man who has been pulled out of school because of his involvement in some criminal activity. He's only 13 years old. Another privileged kid situation. We will be reporting on that. So I want you guys to please stay tuned to the show this evening. We hope to get some of those stories out to you during the course of today. Like I said, we'll still be in court monitoring the HSA case. Someone mentioned earlier, I can't remember who that was, Could this just be a case of incompetence? And that is, I think, what the defense argument is going to be. And it will be up to the jury to decide whether they believe that or not. And of course, the evidence, we will see. We will continue to see what evidence the prosecution brings forward in terms of trying to prove their case. And I will keep you guys updated on how that is going. So folks, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you back here at 7 o'clock with some additional stories and community coverage, as only CMR can bring it to you. That's why we are your number one stop for news and your number one podcast. Please be safe. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you, Miss Lillian. We appreciate it. Yes, common sense, girlfriend. Something that is lacking a lot around these places, around not just the Cayman Islands, but all over the world. But anyway, we'll talk some more about that a bit later on this evening. Be safe. Have a super productive day. And remember, folks, do not fall asleep on the job. There are consequences. Good day.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.